Terrorist gangs continue their violations of the Annan Plan and escalate their crimes against the country and the infrastructure. More than 773 citizens surrender themselves and their weapons to the authorities, while international observers visit Homs and Hama. And Annan says the work of the team of observers contributes to the conditions of the start of a political process. Good afternoon, you're watching News in English on Syrian TV. Many thanks for joining us. The Customs Center of Jdeidet Yabous on the Lebanese-Syrian borders has confiscated today a large number of weapons and ammunition hidden in a Lebanese vehicle. The Lebanese driver was accompanied with a Syrian citizen and they were trying to smuggle the weapons into Syria. An official source at the Customs Department said the weapons included a sniper gun and its binocular, an RPG launcher and 11 rockets, 3 machine guns, 4 pistols, 53 explosive devices, 8 grenades, and various kinds of ammunition. Terrorist gangs continue to target national scientific experts. They murdered today Dr. Adnan Tawfiq al-Smait. They killed him with machine guns in front of his house in Daraa city. Another terrorist gang opened fire at random in the town of al-Naimi in the Daraa countryside in order to create panic and chaos and to prevent people from going to work. The girl Majdaleen Sulaiman Mahmoud, aged 14, was wounded while she was taking a bus from the village of al-Mata'iyya to the city of Daraa. Terrorists have committed a new crime, detonating an explosive device under a train full of flour in the countryside of Idlib. 6 crew members were wounded and a loss of tens of millions of Syrian pounds was caused by this crime. The terrorist gangs continue to target railways exactly as they have targeted gas and oil pipelines.
A terrorist gang targeted the railway between the areas of Mhanbal and Bishmaron in the governorate of Idlib. The explosion derailed one train full of flour, causing a loss of nearly 2 billion Syrian pounds. The terrorist gangs also had attacked a train heading from Aleppo to Damascus and carrying 500 passengers in the area of Qashal near Homs, and another train in the Idlib countryside last year. These crimes derailed 3 train wagons and led to the wounding of the driver and his assistant. The crime also caused the burning of a cargo of fuel. Terrorist crimes did not stop at that. They also targeted the Homs oil refinery with 7 missiles last February. They also recurrently attacked oil and gas pipelines in the governorates of Homs, Hama, Tartus, and Deir ez-Zor. It seems that they target the infrastructure with their crimes of sabotage in their vicious attempts of blind destruction.
Speeches at the United Nations Security Council exposed the bad intentions of the West against Syria. The West claims that it supports the Annan Plan, but at the same time, the West ignores more than 700 criminal violations carried out by terrorist gangs since the start of the Annan Plan.
The call of the United Nations Security Council was preceded by calls of death in Paris and lies and false reports by the West. The permanent members of the Council indicated deception and false reports. These members ignored the violations of the terrorist gangs and gave them a political cover. They also organized a conference to support the blind terrorism only a few days before the speech of the French representative in the United Nations Security Council. The Russian representative commented that some of the speakers wasted the chance to address the Syrian opposition, calling for the respect of Annan's plan. The German representative divided Syria into small communities and majorities and minorities, and then he considered the Syrian government responsible for the massacres committed by the armed terrorists, who are supported and protected by the Western imperialist states. The Syrian representative Bashar al-Jafari replied, asserting that the Syrian community remained united. The Western speakers at the council ignored the crimes of murder, abduction, and sabotage of the infrastructure. They also gave political protection to the terrorists.
The United Nations envoy to Syria, Kofi Annan, said that the Security Council resolution on deploying 300 observers in Syria constitutes a pivotal step for the stabilization of the country. Annan added in a press statement in Geneva that the work of the observers' mission should help create the conditions conducive to launching the needed political process, which would address the legitimate concerns and aspirations of the Syrian people. He called on the government, the opposition, and all Syrians sides to engage in such a process as a matter of utmost priority. Meanwhile, the National Observers Mission visited Hama neighborhoods and met the citizens there. The number related to the unrest in the country and the enormous crimes in Hama governorate and the countryside who handed themselves in with their weapons, the authorities have reached 773 who were immediately after not to take part in any act that harms the security of the country. In Idlib, an active movement is taking place in the markets and the shops as the residents exert efforts to restore calmness and stability.
Residents of Green Idlib continue their life as normal, and the markets and shopping centers regained momentum. In an expanded meeting of the local administration, the concerned authorities discussed the efforts exerted to improve the public services for the citizens and to reconstruct the vital facilities that were sabotaged by the terrorist armed groups. The Red Crescent in the city has provided food assistance to the families which were affected by the crimes of the armed terrorist groups.
The needs of each area were evaluated, and the families who needed assistance were registered by the young volunteers to distribute the assistance among all of the affected families.
They provided assistance for all the citizens in an equal and fair way.
Like all Syrian cities, Idlib asserts its determination to continue the march of construction and production. As the mouthpiece of its people says, there's no place in this country for those who want to tamper with our security and stability.
Celebrating Syria's Independence Day, the Syrian community in Moscow expressed their solidarity with their motherland, Syria, saying they will always confront the aggressive intentions against their country. Syrians delivered speeches that spoke about the Syrian crisis, describing it one of the most dangerous in decades, as they stressed that what happened in other Arab countries was just the beginning of a strike to hit Syria, which has always been a resistant country. They pointed out that Syria had understood from the beginning the aims of the dangerous plot set against it and took the decision to confront such a plot. A delegation from the World Union of Democratic Youth, members of the World Peace Council, and the leaders and representatives of student and youth organizations from 20 countries visited Syria in order to see for themselves the events on the ground.
The delegation consists of popular organizations, youth and students. They met Sheikh Ahmed Badruddin Hassoun, Grand Mufti of the Republic, who gave them details about brotherly coexistence in Syria, the land of love and peace. He asserted that Syria would never give up its principles no matter how large the conspiracies might become. The Mufti also gave details of the terrible massacres committed by the armed terrorists who serve the Zionist and American schemes in this region.
Our visit aims at gathering the true image of the events and delivering it truthfully and objectively to our countries.
The delegation discussed the situation of the students' education and events in Syria with the National Union of Syrian Students.
الحقيقة مغايرة تماما.
We spoke to many university students, and we saw the brotherly love and the determination to continue to build the modern state of Syria.
The delegation also visited a number of the wounded military victims in the Tishrin hospital and offered them flowers as an expression of full solidarity with Syria and rejection of all forms of foreign intervention in its affairs. The delegation represents 37 organizations from 22 countries, which play an important role in the international arena.
The Indian delegation currently visiting Syria continued its meetings with officials and has toured various touristic sites. Here's more.
The visiting Indian delegation, which includes media men, academics, researchers, and former diplomats, met the Speaker of the People's Assembly, Dr. Mahmoud al-Abrash. Dr. al-Abrash briefed the delegation on the comprehensive reform process and the new laws and decrees that aim at enhancing the political pluralism and democracy. He also answered the delegation questions about the nature of the political life in Syria and the role of the parties in it, in addition to the mechanisms and the preparations taken by the government ahead of the parliamentary elections. During his meeting with the Indian delegation, the Minister of Information, Dr. Adnan Mahmoud, stressed that the objectivity of the Indian mass media succeeded in breaking the unilateral reporting by the Western mass media, which relies on suspicious Western agendas. He added that some media have set precedents through using terrorists who committed atrocities as reporters in some areas, filming the massacres they committed and then attributing it to the law enforcement members. Minister Mahmoud also belied claims that the foreign media was denying access to Syria, indicating that more than 400 Arab and foreign media entered into Syria since the beginning of the intention to give visas to more than 70 media outlets in Syria to complete the plan of the United Nations, which said on March 25th.
I think it was a good meeting, and it was very good to hear from the minister exactly what's happening and the kind of problems that your country is facing and how you're trying to counter it. But we discussed everything. We discussed the sanctions against Syria, we discussed the kind of groups that are operating over here. We discussed the media is what role the media internationally is playing against Syria. I think this is something I've been writing on this region for a long time. And every time there is a problem, whether it is of the Palestinians, or earlier it was on Iraq, whether it's now it's Iran, and now more so Syria, you find the entire international media giving complete lies and making that pass as the truth. And I think this is such a shame. And I really believe that if the international media started writing the truth, and if countries like Saudi Arabia and others start funding the terrorists, then you would find that Syria goes back to normal within weeks.
I'm not only a journalist, I'm a parliamentarian. Yes. I'm heading a political party called National Panthers Party. I came to Syria in 1968 on motorcycle. This is my maybe 20th journey to Syria. And I came to Syria to express my solidarity, my support, and support to the people of India, to the great people of Syria.
The Deputy Foreign and Expatriates Minister Faisal al-Muqdad underlined during his meeting with the Indian delegation the strong Syria-India relations and the mutual stands regarding the various regional and international issues. He also reviewed the latest developments in Syria.
I think the visit of the Indian delegation is a very important one. This big delegation represents the Indian media, and I believe the Indian media is very important. India is a very big country, important country with more than 1 billion people, influential country, a country which is a member of the Security Council nowadays, and a country which is linked with Syria with a historical and good relations from all times. So